In just a handful of weeks, June 28th, it's going to be here before you know it. And you're going to have some choices. If you pull a Democratic ballot, you're going to have a choice between incumbent Democrats Governor J.B. Pritzker or Chicago area nurse and U.S. Army veteran Beverly Miles on the Democrat ticket. Illinois being a state that doesn't allow for you to go from one party to the next within a particular election, especially a primary election, you could pull a Republican ballot. Well, on the Republican ballot for governor, there are 6 candidates, and among those candidates includes my next guest. He is Max Solomon. He's an attorney from Cook County, and he joins us now on WMAY. Max, thanks for taking time with us on the WMAY Morning News on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. How you doing out there?
Very well, Greg. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So let's get into it. Max Solomon, who are you? And tell us about your background and why you want to take on what's probably the toughest job in Illinois.
Yes, Greg, thank you. My name is Max Solomon. As you said, I'm an attorney licensed in the state of Illinois and the state of Indiana. I live in Cook County, and I've been living in Cook County for almost 30 years. I just want to be a part of the conversation to fix our state. Our state is very, very broken. Our fiscal health is not in good condition, and I think I have the solution to that. Apart from that, I was a former adjunct professor. I'm an ordained minister, and a father of a daughter.
So talk a bit about, you moved here 30 years ago,
Yes.
and about the United States. So kind of highlight where you came from and what you found so attractive about the United States.
Oh, I'll tell you, Greg, the United States is the best country in the world. And then it's not it doesn't even begin to describe the reality that immigrants flock to from all over the world. I was born in Lagos, Nigeria, and I grew up under a dictatorship. Throughout my life in Nigeria, I barely knew a democratically elected government, maybe one, maybe two. But most of my adult years in Nigeria was under a dictatorship. So coming to the United States, I remember growing up, we used to talk about the United States and call it America is God's own country. What other country in the world has on its own currency, in God we trust. So I grew up with this idea that I'm going to go to America one day, and I'm going to be a part of that beautiful country and the economy and the promise and the potential that it offers all its citizens. So that's what I grew up thinking about. And when I moved here and became a citizen of the United States, it was the best day of my life.
But then you landed in Illinois.
Yeah.
Max Solomon joins us. He is a candidate vying to get the GOP nomination. And Max, just to let everybody know, you're one of 6 candidates. You've got Aurora Mayor Richard Irvin. You've got entrepreneur Jesse Sullivan. You got State Senator Darren Bailey, former State Senator Paul Schimpf, and businessman Gary Rabine. Again, you'll have 6 choices on the Republican ballot. But Max Solomon, obviously, you're one of those 6. And you gave us a little bit of a background. But now you're in Illinois. Here we are. What's your assessment of the state, and how will a Solomon administration change that?
Well, we just took over, I believe, the state of New Jersey in the highest tax state in the United States. We're not doing very well. Our citizens are moving out of the state of Illinois. We just lost a congressional seat, and it doesn't seem like any of these politicians, especially the Democrats, I don't think they are interested in really fixing the problem. As a matter of fact, instead of fixing the problem, they add on to it. All the Democrats want to do is increase taxes and fees, even in the middle of a pandemic, even in the middle of inflation and downward turn in the economy. It's unfortunate. On the Republican side, though, it's been a long time. As a voter myself, I've looked for a Republican candidate who can step in and not only identify the problem, because we all talk about the problem, but also know how to fix it. I joined the race because I believe that our fiscal health depends on reforming and actually taking care of the pension crisis that has plagued Illinois for years. And that's why I came up with CPR for Illinois, Constitutional Pension Reform. I believe strongly that will lead us back to fiscal health.
So talk about that a bit more if you can. CPR for Illinois, Constitutional Pension Reform. What does that look like? Is that an amendment to the Illinois Constitution? Voters get to choose as to if there's going to be, the possibility of diminishing benefits. Talk a bit about what your idea ultimately is.
All right. So it starts with the Article 13, Section 5 of our Illinois Constitution. The Supreme Court of the state of Illinois interpreted the language in that provision of the Constitution, and it clearly says that we cannot diminish or impair pensions. Remember about 2 years ago when Pritzker put on the ballot for us to increase our own taxes, and he spent almost $70 million of his own money. Well, that was the wrong referendum. And if we allow the Democrats to continue in that light, they're going to keep trying to force us or force us into tax increases. The response to that would have been a referendum on the ballot to amend that provision in the Constitution. We can't touch a pension that's already vested. We know that already. The Supreme Court already said that. It's a matter of contract. You've got to pay what you owe. But going forward, you've got to be able to fix it. It was done in Arizona in 2016, and it's working very well for them. We need to do the same thing. So an amendment to Article 13, Section 5 of our Constitution would be the way out. And yes, it'll be through referendum. The people of the state of Illinois will get an opportunity to vote to amend it. And then amending it doesn't mean that it's going to affect people who are already established or vested in it.
Max, what do you say to those listening right now in the Springfield area who work for the state and they don't like the idea of their pensions possibly being threatened, even those who are set to retire soon? How do you win them over?
I say to them, don't worry about it. Nothing is going to happen to your pension. The Supreme Court already ruled we cannot touch it. We cannot diminish or impair it, especially if you were hired under the provision of the current Constitution, which as it stands, even if you're hired today, that's what you're hired into. I can't touch it. I'm not going to touch it. It's not going to happen. We're going to be looking forward to fixing pension, not looking backward to diminish or impair pensions.
Max Solomon joins us. Max, I got to take a break, but coming back, can we talk about a few other issues?
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Yep, absolutely. So stay tuned. We'll talk more with Max Solomon. He's one of 6 candidates vying for the GOP nomination to take on Governor J.B. Pritzker or whoever comes out of the Democratic primary, because Governor Pritzker does face a Democratic primary challenger in Beverly Miles. So we'll get to more here on WMAY. We'll talk about a controversial issue that's rocking the nation right now about abortion. We'll also talk about the LaSalle Veterans Home and the COVID-19 outbreak. So those are just a few of the things coming up here on WMAY with my guest, Max Solomon, on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. Back with Springfield's Morning News, I'm Greg Bishop, talking with Max Solomon, one of the 6 GOP candidates vying to take on Governor J.B. Pritzker in November, but we've got a June 28th primary. And several weeks ago, we talked with Jesse Sullivan. I do plan on talking with some of the other candidates here on WMAY. But today, we've got Max Solomon with us. And Max, I want to get your reaction to Governor J.B. Pritzker from 4 years ago, and then from last week, talking about the veterans' homes and how under former Governor Bruce Rauner, there was an outbreak of Legionnaires disease at a veterans home in Quincy that led to the death of, I want to say, around 17 veterans there. This was Governor J.B. Pritzker 4 years ago during a debate with Univision and ABC 7, where he blasted then Governor Bruce Rauner.
This was a cover-up all along. Remember that Governor Rauner knew about this. His administration knew about it. Days went by without notifying people. People got sick as a result of that.
And then here we are 4 years later. The governor, when I asked him last week if he would take responsibility for the LaSalle Veterans Home COVID-19 outbreak that killed 36, here's what the governor's response was.
So there's no way that you can see across 50+ thousand people in your government as governor exactly what everybody's doing. That's why we focused this effort on finding out what had happened at the agency.
So ultimately, he did issue an Inspector General report that came out last year, but that only looked at the Department of Veterans Affairs. Last week, after the Illinois House ordered the Auditor General to look at a more holistic entirety of the Pritzker administration's response, said that the Pritzker administration ultimately did not take the seriousness of the situation at the LaSalle home. So, Max Solomon, your response to all of this. We're going to hear, of course, a lot more about this in the weeks ahead with possible House hearings expected before the end of the month. But what do you think happened here? And is there a double standard with the governor and how he approached this 4 years ago? Good morning.
Oh, absolutely, Greg. It just goes to show you the double standards and hypocrisy of the Pritzker administration. I remember the Legionnaires outbreak when he went in on the Rauner administration. And a fast forward 4 years later, he's got to own the COVID outbreak that happened at the veterans' homes. Look, Governor Pritzker did everything wrong back in 2020 when the outbreak happened. He destroyed his policies, destroyed a lot of lives, the shutdown, the extensions, the grab on power. Everything was just wrong. And of course, they try to shift the blame. That's what he does, shift the blame. And he's got to own this one. It's unfortunate. And my heart goes out to all the people who lost loved ones during the outbreak and the veterans' homes. It is my hope that we can find a lasting solution to future outbreaks if it happens, but not the way the governor has handled it so far.
We've heard others that are running for governor say that there needs to be a criminal investigation. Is that a sentiment you share?
I wouldn't go that far. I don't see. I haven't read the full report, but I'm sure that the Attorney General and maybe even federal may be able to look into that and make that determination. But I'm not going to go that far at this time.
We're talking with Max Solomon. He is a Republican vying for the GOP nomination, the June 28th primary coming up quicker than you think. Max, something else that's dominating headlines across the country is the issue of abortion with that leaked U.S. Supreme Court draft opinion, ultimately showing that the U.S. Supreme Court's ready to put it back into the hands of state governments when it comes to abortion. Illinois has pretty liberal abortion policies. It's up to the doctor whether a fetus is viable and making the decision. There's no parental notification any longer. They're even looking at possibly helping to find funds, taxpayer funds, I'm assuming, to get people into Illinois for a medical procedure like that. Where do you stand on this, and what does Illinois need to do under a Solomon administration when it comes to abortion access?
All right. I can tell you now, Greg, that I am unapologetically and uncompromisingly pro-life. I support the overturn of Roe v. Wade. I think it's horrible. Life must be protected at every stage from conception. As a matter of fact, Greg, I'll go back and tell you I'm a Jeremiah 1:5 pro-lifer. I believe that life begins when God ordered it. But apart from my religious sentiments on that, I believe strongly that taxpayers' money should not a dollar of taxpayers' money should go towards the killing of any child born or unborn. The idea of not notifying the parents if their teenage daughter wants to get an abortion is horrifying. It's unbelievable how any governor or any administration can stand up for that. So under a Solomon administration, the people of Illinois know where I stand. Not a single cent of taxpayers' money is going to go towards any funding of any abortion or any legislation would I support that will increase the ability or the access to abortion in the state of Illinois. It's not going to happen under a Solomon administration. And I hope that other states follow through or follow the overturn if and when Roe v. Wade is overturned.
Max, that's all the time we've got. Max Solomon, he is a candidate for governor for the Republicans. June 28th is that primary, so we will definitely be following up on all of that and more here on WMAY. Appreciate your time, Max.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg.
From the Fly SPI studio, take the easy way out. WMAY Springfield.